Evelyn Hargrove had always believed that the best lessons weren't taught from textbooks, but from the quiet corners of everyday life. At 68, she was the sort of supply teacher who turned chaotic classrooms into unexpected adventures, reciting Shakespeare with a Bristol accent thick as clotted cream, or turning fractions into tales of pirate treasure. To her colleagues and pupils, she was Miss Evie, the one who showed up in mismatched cardigans from the local Oxfam and a battered Tupperware packed with Marmite sandwiches. No one suspected the truth, that beneath the frayed hems and faded brooches lay the fortune of a woman who'd traded boardrooms for blackboards 2 decades ago. Her son, Thomas, was 35 now, a rising architect in London with a wife who embodied everything polished and precise. Amelia came from old money. Her family owned half the wine cellars in the Cotswolds and a townhouse in Kensington that screamed quiet privilege. They'd met at a gala Thomas had designed the set for, and their wedding had been a whirlwind of marquees and monograms. Evelyn adored Amelia, truly, but she'd sensed the undercurrent from the start. The subtle arch of an eyebrow when Evelyn mentioned her little flat in Clifton, or the way conversations veered away from her teaching lark. It was the Boxing Day brunch that cracked it open. Thomas rang her on Christmas Eve, his voice a mix of excitement and that familiar edge of apology. "Mum, we've got the in-laws over at the manor tomorrow. Amelia's folks. Lord and Lady Harrington, you know. They'd love to meet you properly. It's just a casual spread, nothing fancy." Evelyn chuckled into the receiver, stirring her tea in her tiny kitchenette. "Casual for them, eh? Shall I bring my wellies in case the caviar floods?" He laughed, but it was strained. "Mum, please, just be yourself. They're keen to chat about the wedding plans. Be yourself." The words lingered as she hung up. Thomas had always known her as the single mum who'd scraped by on a teacher's wage after his dad scarpered. He'd seen the patched elbows on her jumpers, the coupons clipped for Waitrose deals, the way she'd cycle to school in the rain rather than splurge on a bus. But Evelyn had a secret stash, one she'd buried deeper than the crown jewels. At 28, fresh out of Oxford with a first in economics, she'd inherited a sliver of her grandfather's shipping empire, a stake that ballooned into billions as global trade boomed. She'd cashed out quietly, diversified into tech and renewables, and then walked away. Why? Because the cutthroat world of Fitzy boardrooms had chewed up her spirit, and teaching? That fed her soul. She donated anonymously to schools, hospitals, even the Harringtons' pet causes, but she'd never breathed a word to Thomas. Let him think she was ordinary. Let him build his life without the weight of her wings. The next morning, Evelyn rummaged through her wardrobe like an archaeologist on a budget dig. She selected the most embarrassingly frugal ensemble: a knee-length wool skirt from the charity shop, £3, bargain, a blouse with a stubborn ink stain she'd never quite shifted, and a pair of sensible brogues polished with yesterday's tea bag. Her coat was a hand-me-down Barber, threadbare at the cuffs, and she topped it off with a scarf knitted by one of her Year 7 pupils. No makeup beyond a swipe of Vaseline on her lips and her silver hair pulled into a no-nonsense bun. She caught her reflection in the hall mirror, wide-eyed, unassuming, the epitome of a pensioner pinching pennies. Perfect. The train to the Cotswolds was a festive blur of hungover revelers and crisp morning frost on the fields. Evelyn arrived at the Harrington Manor just after 11, the gravel crunching under her feet like whispered judgments. The house was a Georgian dream, honeystone walls, ivy-clinging turrets, and a driveway lined with sleek Range Rovers. Thomas met her at the door, his face lighting up before flickering with that telltale wince as he took in her outfit. "Mum, you made it. Come in, come in. The Harringtons are in the morning room." He hugged her tightly, but his eyes darted over her shoulder as if checking for witnesses. Evelyn squeezed back, inhaling the scent of his aftershave. Sandalwood. Expensive. "Wouldn't miss it, love. Where's the grub? I'm famished after that trek." Amelia appeared next, radiant in cashmere and pearls, her blonde bob impeccable. She air-kissed Evelyn's cheeks with the precision of a diplomat. "Evelyn, darling, so thrilled you're here. Mummy and Daddy have been dying to meet Thomas's mum properly." This way. The morning room was a vision of understated opulence. Crackling fire in a marble hearth, silver service gleaming on oak sideboards, and a table groaning under platters of smoked salmon, quail eggs, and truffled scones. Lord Harrington, Geoffrey, bluff and ruddy-cheeked in tweed, rose with a politician's smile while Lady Harrington, Penelope, all sharp cheekbones and Chanel, extended a manicured hand like she was bestowing a knighthood. Evelyn, what a pleasure. Thomas has told us all about you. Do sit, do sit. Evelyn perched on the edge of a chintz armchair, her Tupperware clunking awkwardly on the Persian rug as she set it down. Lovely to meet you both. Thomas says you're keen on the wedding chat? I've got a few ideas, nothing too flash, mind. A vicar from my parish does a cracking line in vows. Penelope's smile tightened as she poured tea from a pot that probably cost more than Evelyn's annual salary. How quaint. Thomas mentioned you're still teaching? Supply work, isn't it? Must keep you ever so busy. Oh, Evelyn replied, buttering a scone with deliberate slowness. Fills the days, pays the bills just about. Can't complain. Geoffrey chuckled, a low rumble like distant thunder. Honest toil, eh? We admire that. Penelope here volunteers at a little school in the village. Keeps her grounded. But full-time teaching? Blimey, that's a tough gig these days. Pensions aren't what they used to be, are they? Evelyn nodded meekly, eyes downcast. No, they're not. I get by on the state bit and a dab of savings. Clifton's not cheap, but it's home. Amelia shifted in her seat, fiddling with her napkin. Thomas shot Evelyn a pleading glance, but she pressed on, voice small and tremulous. Mind you, it's a worry sometimes. Thomas here was always such a good lad. Helped with the rent when he could. Don't want to be a burden now he's got his own nest to feather. Penelope leaned forward, her expression a masterclass in feigned empathy. Lips pursed, head tilted just so. Oh, Evelyn, you're not a burden. But we do understand. Family's everything, isn't it? We've been chatting with Thomas about the future. With the wedding coming up and little ones on the horizon, perhaps. Well, stability matters. Geoffrey cleared his throat, swirling his brandy. At noon, naturally. Quite. We've been most generous with the young uns already. A spot of help with the deposit on that Chelsea flat, you know. And the honeymoon in Tuscany? Our treat. But one's got to think long term. Evelyn, my dear, have you considered options? A nice care home, perhaps? We know a chap who runs a discreet one in Bath. Top-notch, but affordable. No need for Thomas to fret. Evelyn's fork paused midair, a quail egg wobbling precariously. She let the silence stretch, watching Penelope's eyes gleam with that mix of pity and calculation. A care home at my age? Well, I suppose. If it eases things for him? Amelia jumped in, voice hushed. Mummy and Daddy just want what's best. And to help, of course. Perhaps a little allowance? Say $400 a month? It'd cover extras, groceries, a cleaner. In return, you could give them space, not pop round unannounced, that sort of thing. It's all about balance, isn't it? There it was, the velvet glove over the iron fist. Buy her off, pack her away, keep the embarrassing frump from tainting their polished portrait. Evelyn felt a familiar spark ignite, not hot rage, but the cool burn of revelation. She'd endured worse in boardrooms, sharks in pinstripes who'd underestimated the quiet woman with the calculator. Thomas's face had drained of color. He gripped his teacup like a lifeline. Amelia, that's... But Evelyn raised a hand, gentle as a teacher's hush. No, love, let me. She set down her fork with a soft clink that echoed like a gavel. Straightening, she met Penelope's gaze, not timid now, but steady, appraising. The room held its breath. A generous offer, Lady Harrington. Truly, $400 a month to vanish into the woodwork. But before I say yes, a question. How much did that Chelsea flat deposit run to, exactly? Penelope blinked, caught off guard. Oh, $150,000. A starter, really. And Tuscany? 3 weeks of villas and vintage Chianti? $25,000, Jeffrey supplied, puffing a bit. Worth every penny. Evelyn nodded slowly, her bun loosening just a touch, silver strands catching the firelight. $175,000 in gifts, then. For love, you say. Not obligation. She paused, letting it sink in. Tell me, have either of you ever truly scraped by? Built something from note? Without a safety net of titles or trust funds? Penelope's cheeks flushed a delicate rose. Well, I've volunteered, as Jeffrey said, Penelope interjected, voice sharpening, and Jeffrey built the estate from scratch after university. From scratch? Evelyn echoed, soft as a sigh. With Daddy's connections and a leg up from the old-school tie? Admirable, no doubt. But I wonder, do you know what it's like to choose chalk dust over caviar? To watch your son grow thinking you're ordinary because flashing wealth poisons the well? Thomas stared, mouth agape. Amelia's pearls seemed to tighten around her neck. Evelyn rose then, unhurried, shedding the coat like an old skin. Beneath it, tucked in her Tupperware, not sandwiches, but a slim leather dossier, she pulled a single sheet, a photocopy of a will, yellowed but crisp. 40 years ago, I was you, Penelope. Oxford grad, heiress to a slice of the Hargrove line, shipping, trade routes to the east. It grew. Tech booms, green energy bets. By the time Thomas was born, I could have bought this manor twice over. The room froze. Jeffrey's brandy glass hovered midair. But I sold it all, quietly. Invested in people, not palaces. Schools in Bristol. That cancer wing at Cheltenham General you raffled for last year? My donation, anonymous. And your vineyard trust, Jeffrey. The one that saved the estate from the crash in '08, that was me too. $2 million, wired through a Cayman shell to keep it clean. Penelope's hand flew to her throat. You... what? Evelyn smiled, not triumphant, but kind, the way she smiled at a pupil who'd finally grasped algebra. Your thrifty wedding gift, Amelia? The one you cooed over at the engagement do? She reached into her skirt pocket, producing a small velvet pouch. From it tumbled a brooch, antique gold, sapphires winking like forgotten stars. Georgian, from the family vaults, worth a cool $800,000 at Sotheby's. I thought it suited you, elegant, understated, like the life I chose. Thomas bolted up, chair scraping. Mum? You're... bloody hell. Amelia's eyes welled, not with joy, but a dawning horror. Evelyn, we didn't know. We thought... You thought I was the charity case, Evelyn finished gently. And that's fair. I cultivated it. But pity's a poor teacher, dears. It blinds you to the worth right under your nose. Jeffrey spluttered into recovery mode. Evelyn, this is... extraordinary. We owe you no debts, she cut in, voice firm as oak. Just a lesson. Next time you measure a soul by their hemline, remember, the richest veins run deepest, unseen. She gathered her things, the Tupperware now feather-light. Thomas enveloped her in a bear hug at the door, whispering fierce apologies. Amelia followed, brooch clutched like contrition. Even Penelope managed a watery, "Do call," properly. Evelyn stepped into the frosty air, gravel crunching anew, not judgments now, but possibilities. As the train rattled her home, she texted Thomas. Fancy a proper chat over fish and chips? No secrets this time. In the quiet carriage, she allowed herself a private chuckle. The best stories, after all, weren't in books. They were the ones you lived, frayed edges and all.